Hello. Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you? Hello. So, I'm currently live on both Facebook and Instagram right now. This is either going to be a complete disaster or a beautiful mess. So, thank you for joining and thanks for your patience. I had a call that I couldn't get off of in time. So, I apologize for being a little bit late today. I'll give some more people some time to hop on. I am streaming live from both platforms. So, I'll give people a couple minutes and then I will start. But in the meantime, for those of you who are joining, if you could just let me know where you're streaming from. Also, make sure that you can hear me. So if anyone can't hear me, just let me know you can't hear me. But let me know where you guys are streaming from. I'm in Massachusetts, where it's currently snowing right now. Which I'm beyond sick of the snow. I understand that it tends to do that in the wintertime, but um, the Texas girl in me will never ever get used to the cold and snow. So I'll give people like a minute or so before I get started. Um, and if you have any questions, definitely feel free to drop them in the comments or in the Q&A box if you're watching from Instagram. Hey, RWU Family Law Society, listening from Rhode Island. So you share in my hatred of the cold as well, then. Okay, well, I am attorney Bianca Jordan. I am the founder and owner of Brazen Legal, which is my immigration law firm that I've had for the past 7 years. I primarily help immigrants get green cards. I like to say that I help you find your fastest path to a green card so that you can have legal status in the United States. I primarily help people get green cards through family petition, so getting a green card through your spouse or children or siblings, parents. And then I also help people get green cards through special humanitarian programs such as VAWA, Special Immigrant Juvenile Status, the current Liberian green card. So there are a variety of ways to get a green card. So I try to help you find whatever path makes sense for you. And I also help immigrants get citizenship. I represent people in removal proceedings. So I handle a variety of different cases. If you're interested in getting in touch with me about your case, you can either click the link in my Instagram bio to book a consultation, or you can go to brazenlegal.com or call my office at 508-942-7497. So today's live is about the U.S. Citizenship Act. I have notes. I actually read it yesterday, 353 pages. It was officially introduced to Congress yesterday. So just to kind of rewind, on day one of President Biden's presidency, he had a whole bunch of immigration executive orders. And he also released the fact sheet for the U.S. Citizenship Act, which is the immigration bill, which hopefully will become law. And a lot of people are excited about this, understandably so. The Trump administration was very unkind to immigrants, and our immigration system is very outdated, very old anyway, and it's long overdue for some immigration reform. So we are so excited about the U.S. Citizenship Act. Before I get started, I do want to remind you that this is just a bill. It is not a law. So please do not completely rely on this, and please do not start to pay people who promise that they can get you things from this act. It is not a law yet, but I want to go through the process so that you can kind of have an idea of what this is and what could happen if this were to pass as law. So the official text was released yesterday, and again, I read all 353 pages of it. Um, I'm a legal nerd in that way. I know a lot of people have a synopsis, but I wanted to make sure that I read what was actually in it. So one of the exciting things in this bill is that is a new category called lawful prospective immigrant. And this would be for people that are currently in the United States that have no legal status. If you've been here since at least January 1st, 2021, you would have an opportunity to obtain lawful prospective immigrant status. The status would be valid for 6 years, and it can also be extended as long as certain requirements are met. And you can also have work authorization to work legally in this country as well. And if you get lawful prospective immigrant status, then you would have an opportunity to adjust your status to become a lawful permanent resident within 5 years. So, lawful permanent resident is what we know as green card holders. It's what we refer to as people who have green cards. So, green card holder, LPR, or lawful permanent resident are interchangeable. This law, if it passes to become law, would create the category of lawful prospective immigrant for people that are here undocumented and qualify for this status. And again, it would be valid for 6 years. You can extend it, and then you also get work authorization. And after 5 years, as long as you meet certain criteria, you would be able to adjust your status to get a regular green card. The next thing that's really noteworthy about the U.S. Citizenship Act is the DREAM Act. And the DREAM Act actually has been revived. There are a couple other senators who have been working together. House and Senate have been working together to possibly pass the DREAM Act. In all of the provisions of the U.S. Citizenship Act, the DREAM Act, I think, is probably more likely than not to pass before a lot of these other things because the DACA recipients, it's a pretty bipartisan agreement, for lack of a better word. Both reps and senators seem to support a pathway to citizenship for people that have DACA. So the DREAM Act has been revived. It's revived separately, but it's also included in the U.S. Citizenship Act. And under this DREAM Act, it would allow people who entered the United States before they turned 18 and people that have a high school diploma or a GED, or if you're enrolled in a bachelor's program, like in college or university, it would allow these people to be able to adjust their status, also including people that are in the Army. It would also create a streamlined process for people who already have DACA to be able to adjust their status. So I would say if you currently qualify for DACA and you haven't yet applied as a first timer, I would encourage you to do so because, again, in this act, if you have DACA, you'd be able to adjust your status. And if this doesn't pass, but another DREAM Act passes on its own, that would enable people with DACA to get green cards. And I would encourage you to do so. If you have any issues such as leaving the US and coming back, or if you have any criminal convictions or anything like that, definitely speak with an immigration attorney before you apply for DACA, because when you're applying for DACA and any immigration benefit, really, you're giving immigration your contact information and your most recent information. So God forbid something goes bad and you're subject to removal, they would know how to, find you and things like that. Another thing that is really noteworthy and important in the U.S. Citizenship Act is green cards for people that have temporary protected status. So under the American Promise Act, people with TPS who have been in the United States and had TPS since January 1st, 2017, would be able to adjust their status to get green cards. And in addition to that, this act would also say that temporary protected status counts as an admission. This is very important because, for one, the Supreme Court is currently deciding this issue. Maybe we'll get a decision closer to the end of their term in June. But this has been a really tough issue for people with TPS for the past couple years. We have some states in the country that agree that if you have temporary protected status, even if you came here undocumented and then got temporary protected status, it still counts as a status. But this is not universal across the 50 states, which is why the Supreme Court is deciding this case. But if this were to pass, then this law would include the provision that if you have temporary protected status, regardless of how you came to the U.S., that counts as an admission, which also is important because that means that if you qualify to get a green card here, you can adjust your status without having to go back to your home country. Another part of this bill is the Agricultural Workers Adjustment Act, which would allow adjustment of status for agricultural workers, which is super important. And then it would also get rid of the 3 and 10-year bar. So for those who aren't aware, the 3 and 10-year bar is a part of our immigration law that says if you are in the country, in the United States, undocumented for longer than 6 months, but less than a year, or more than a year, if ever you leave the United States, you can't come back for 3 or 10 years. So if you spend less than a year but more than 6 months in the US and you leave the US, you can't come back for 3 years. If you spend more than a year undocumented in the US, you can't come back for, and then leave, you can't come back for 10 years. And undocumented could either mean you came to the US with no papers originally, or you came to the US with a visitor's visa, you overstayed, but then you never left, and then you leave and come back. You won't be able to come back before 3 or 10 years without a waiver. This bill would get rid of that. It would also have a humanitarian, family unity, and public interest waiver for deportations in an attempt to keep families together. And then it would resume judicial review in immigration court, which is very important because we have, I believe, at least over 1 million immigration cases that are pending in court. And the Trump administration over the past couple of years removed a lot of judges' discretion and things that they could do to get cases moving along. So this would reintroduce that and allow judges to have a little bit more discretion in their cases. And another noteworthy thing that I thought was worth discussing in this bill is relief for orphans, widows, um, and widowers in applications. So typically when you're filing an application for someone, if you are petitioning for someone to get a green card and you file that I-130, if that petitioner dies, then the application typically dies with them. There are some rare situations and special circumstances where you are able to revive that application so that the beneficiary can still try to get the green card to come to the US, but those cases are very special circumstances and they're not easy to win. But this bill would pretty much say that orphans and widows of petitioners can still continue to adjust their application as if the petitioner never died at all. So again, I will briefly recap everything I just talked about. So number one, this bill would create a lawful prospective immigrant status for people that are undocumented to be able to get this status, which would be valid for 6 years. It can be extended. And if you have this status, you're authorized to work in the United States. And you would be able to adjust your status to get a green card within 5 years as long as you meet certain requirements, such as passing a background check, English requirements, things like that. While I'm on the English, speaking of English, another thing that this bill would do is it would remove the English language requirement for seniors who want to apply for citizenship. This would pretty much incorporate the DREAM Act, which would enable eligible immigrants who came to the US before they turned 18 to get this status, as long as they have like a high school diploma, GED, or some type of equivalent, if they're enrolled in a bachelor's degree program or college or something like that, if they have been honorably discharged from the Army, and it would create a streamlined process for people that already have DACA. So again, if you qualify for DACA, and qualifying for DACA means that you came to the US before or rather, you were born June 13th, 1981 or after. You were in the U.S. as of June 12th, 2007, sorry. You either graduated from school, are enrolled in a program, a qualifying program, you were honorably discharged from the Army, you don't have any serious crimes or misdemeanors, such as like DUIs are pretty bad for immigration, unfortunately. So if you qualify for DACA, definitely apply. If you have DACA, renew your status. You can continue to renew your status. You'll continue to get that to your work card. If you qualify for DACA, definitely apply. But if you have any issues such as deportation or criminal issues, or if you came to the US before 2007 but then you left, speak with an immigration attorney before you apply for DACA. You might still qualify, but just make sure that you speak with an immigration attorney so you know that if there are any issues you should be aware of. This bill would also enable people with temporary protected status to adjust their status to get green cards as long as they've been in the US since at least January 1st, 2017 with TPS. And it would also make temporary protected status count as an admission. So if you came here undocumented, got TPS, didn't travel on advance parole, maybe you married a US citizen or you have a US citizen child that's 21 years old or over, you would be able to adjust your status here. Whereas currently, you would have to consular process unless you are living in one of the states that enables you to adjust your status even if you came here undocumented. It would create the Agricultural Workers Adjustment Act, which would allow agricultural workers to adjust their status. It would also allow humanitarian, it would create a humanitarian, family unity, and public interest waiver for deportation hearings, which would help to keep families together. It would reinstate judicial review and immigration court, which hopefully would get the cases moving a lot faster than they currently are. It would remove the 3 and 10-year bar, which sometimes prevents families from being together because you need a waiver and not everyone qualifies for one. And it would also allow orphans and widowers to continue to get their green card applications processed as if the petitioner did not die. There are so many other things in this bill. It also creates relief for Syrians who have TPS. There's so many awesome things in this bill, which is why I'm cautiously optimistic. I think that it's very important to understand that this is just a bill. This is not a law yet. So if you see people that are telling you to pay them for a green card under this program or any immigration benefit under this program, run like hell. This is not a law yet. And on that note, also, if you qualify for an immigration benefit now, if you can get a green card now, if you can get the ball rolling on your family members' I-130s, now is the time to do it. Don't wait for this to pass, because even if this does pass, it's going to take a while. This is going to be an uphill battle to pass because even a lot of Democrats are skeptical. And we already know how the Republicans feel about this. Republicans are okay with creating a pathway to citizenship for people that have DACA. So again, if you qualify for DACA, please go ahead and apply. Speak with an immigration attorney first if you have any criminal or deportation issues, or if you left and came back. If you have DACA and you need to renew it, obviously you keep renewing it, but don't put all of your immigration eggs in the U.S. Citizenship Act basket, because it's going to be an uphill battle for this to pass. Even with, the numbers look really good. I think we would need 50 Democrats and 10 Republicans to sign off on this. And if for whatever reason it ended up in a tie, we have Vice President Kamala Harris who would break that tie. So it looks pretty good as far as passing, but again, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's not going to happen overnight. President Biden has been president for about 30 days now. It is unrealistic and unfair to think that he is going to be able to change the immigration system when we had so much bad over the past 4 years. He's not going to be able to do this overnight. So this is going to take some time to pass. Hopefully it does, or at least some version of it. I don't think that everything in this bill will make it to the final law. So if you have a way of getting a green card or any other immigration benefit now, definitely start working on that process now. If you have family members overseas, start the I-130 process today, especially if you are petitioning for siblings. Siblings are taking a really long time. For example, like the wait time for a U.S. citizen to petition for a brother or sister in Haiti right now is like 14 to 15 years, but Mexico, I think, is like 27 years right now. So it's going to be a long process. Start that I-130 now for a variety of reasons. Number one, if you have an approved I-130, it's kind of like an insurance policy that your family member might still be able to come to the U.S. Secondly, even if the petitioner, God forbid the petitioner dies or something, that I-130 is an insurance policy for your family members to come to the U.S. So start that process now. The filing fee is $535. You can apply online if you want to. Get that ball rolling so that your family can have a chance to come to the U.S. Secondly, I think that as COVID comes to be under more control and hopefully things start to go back a little, like the processing time start to go back to whatever new normal is going to look like, I think that the case processing times will get faster. And so if you have an I-130 that's already approved or pending now, then you're not having to wait until like at the end of the line once things go back to normal and then now you're applying. So get the ball rolling on those cases now. I think I've spoken for long enough, so I will see if anybody has any questions. And again, keep dropping them like in the comments. Let's see what cases or questions rather I have on Instagram. Let's see. And thank you guys so much again for joining. Okay, let's see. And you can also, if you're on Instagram, you can drop your question either in the comments or in the Q&A box, which I think is working. Let's see. I think I had a question, but there are a lot of people joining, so it's kind of scrolling really quickly. So please be patient with me a little bit. Okay. Someone asked if they can ask me a question. Yes, if you have a question, you can definitely drop it below. Someone asked for my phone number. My office number is 508-942-7497. If you're not in the US, you can send us a message on WhatsApp. We're usually using WhatsApp on the computer, so we're not able to necessarily take calls, but you can send us messages and we can communicate with you that way. Hi, I am practicing advocate in capital of India. Welcome. Thanks for joining from India. What time is it in India right now? If you have a question, you can definitely join. Someone said I'm not taking questions. I wanted to talk about the act first. If you have questions, definitely drop them. I'm still waiting for the same thing. You can ask your questions. You could just drop your questions. Can you go over the TPS again? Yes. Okay. So as far as the act, so under this act, people that have had TPS and have been in the U.S. physically present since January 1st, 2017 would be able to get a green card through this program. And then it would also make it so that TPS counts as an admission into the U.S. So typically, in order to adjust your status, which means getting your green card in the United States, you have to have been inspected, admitted, or paroled into the US, which generally means you're coming to the US with papers. You're coming here lawfully, you have a visitor's visa or some other visa that's allowing you to come here legally. You're checking in at the border, they're allowing you in. Or sometimes if you have no papers, but you're trying to apply for asylum, in the past, if you were like pregnant, they would parole you into the United States. So as long as that's how you got here, then if you were to, for example, fall in love with a US citizen, get married, and apply for a green card, you'd be able to get that green card in the US as long as you don't have any other type of inadmissibility issues. The problem that has been happening with TPS is that even though it says temporary protected status, it's not a real status. And there's been a debate going back and forth as to whether TPS counts as an admission. A lot of attorneys think yes, because when you're applying for TPS, you go through biometrics, you're applying, immigration is, doing a background check on you and things, and it should count as an admission. But there have been a variety of policy changes during the Trump administration that have said that TPS does not count as an admission. So the Supreme Court is currently going to decide whether or not TPS is an admission. But in the event that they decide it's not or something, or this law passes before they get there, then it would become an admission, which means that if you came here undocumented and then got TPS, then you want to get a green card through a family member, you would be able to get it here instead of going overseas. So that's the TPS part. Let's see, Facebook comments. Some Democrats are looking at doing piecemeal way to at least get something done. The Republicans don't look like they're too interested in reforming immigration. I agree. Perhaps they can get rid of the filibuster. That would be nice. Good job, Bianca. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think, again, this is really great and it's aspirational, but it's going to take a lot of work to get this passed. Even I don't think it's going to pass as is, because we're talking about giving like 11 million people legal status, which I support. I just don't think the Republicans do. So I don't think it's going to pass as is, but I think that a lot of things would be in there. What are the chances for the bill to pass, in your opinion? As I just mentioned, I don't think it will pass as is because, again, like it's an uphill battle. We've been trying to do immigration reform like for decades. The law hasn't been changed in like I think since I was a kid, if that. So it's long overdue. Our immigration laws are so old, they're so antiquated. They need to be updated for things like, for example, last year there was a lot of uproar because of COVID. And then because of COVID, the Department of State allowed students who are here on student visas to finish their schoolwork online. Like they could go to school online, which typically you cannot go to school full time in an online course if you're here on an F1 visa. There are some visas that allow you to take some coursework online, but not full time coursework. So they had an exception for student visas last spring. And then when the fall semester came, they were like, nope, if you're here on a student visa and your school is not reopening, you need to go back to your home country because the law says that you can't go to school full time online. And because of all the uproar, they were like, okay, we'll give you guys a pass again. So things like that should be updated in our immigration law because nowadays we're doing everything online. And because of COVID now, we're living at work and school. We're not working from home. We're living at work. We're living at school. We're always online, doing everything online. Our immigration laws need to reflect that. They need to reflect that the times have changed. So there's so much stuff that needs to be changed in this law. And this bill would be amazing if it passes, but I'm kind of skeptical that it'll pass exactly as is. How long to get a work permit once your papers is filed? That depends on what you're applying for. If you're applying for, and also you're not going to be able to get your work permit until you go through biometrics. And you're not going to be able to go through biometrics until they give you an appointment. USCIS right now is extremely backed up. I have cases that I filed in September that still haven't been scheduled for biometrics because USCIS still has cases that were filed in March of 2020 that haven't been rescheduled for biometrics. So you can't get your work permit until you go through biometrics. If you've never had biometrics taken before ever, then you're probably going to have to wait until they schedule you. If you have ever had biometrics done in the past, let's say, for example, you applied for a work card in the past or another immigration benefit in the past, and they're able to reuse those fingerprints, then they're going to send you a letter in the mail that says that you don't have to go. They're going to reuse your biometrics, which again is just a fancy word for fingerprints, and you won't have to go. And then once that's done, it just really depends on what kind of case it is. If there are any issues in the case, for example, if immigration is going to send you a request for evidence. But green cards over the past couple of years, through like changes done in the Trump administration, green cards are typically, or sorry, work cards are usually coming a couple weeks before your green card interview. So it really just depends on the type of case, how quickly you can get your biometrics done, and if there are any other issues in your case. Let's see. Can you get green card through employment? Yes, you can apply for a green card through your job. That process, it depends on, I mean, there are a variety of employment type of green cards. I don't usually handle in green employment cases, but there are certain ways for you to get a green card through your job. Your job, in most situations, can't just directly petition for you to get a green card. One process, which is called the PERM process, usually entails that your company would post a job posting like somewhere public so that other people can also apply for the job as well. And then they basically have to prove to the Department of Labor that of all the people that applied for that job, of all the people that maybe already have lawful status or work authorization, maybe they have a green card or they already have a work visa or they're citizens, of all the other people that applied, why do they need to hire you? And then, assuming that goes well and they approve that and the wages and everything, then you could apply for a green card. The process can take a minimum of 18 months, depending on whether the company gets audited, and that can be 6 to 8 months, give or take COVID right now. But I don't really handle employment immigration, so I can't really talk about that too much. Let's see. I missed the section about TPS. So I'm going to save these lives. So if there's a question that you kind of missed, you can definitely go back. But just really quickly about TPS, if this bill passes, the part about TPS that's important is that people that have temporary protected status who have been in the United States since at least January 1st, 2017 would be able to adjust their status, and then TPS would also count as an admission. Is it normal for you to do your biometrics and then have your interview scheduled without receiving a work permit for social security number? Yeah, I've had cases where my client had the biometrics and then they had their interview scheduled and then they got their work permit like a week before the interview. So I've seen that happen. Okay, let's see. What other questions do you guys have? Let me check back on Facebook. I don't see anything on Facebook. And make sure I didn't miss anything on Instagram. Let's see. So again, to recap, this would create a new status. If this bill were to pass as is, it would create a new status called lawful prospective immigrant for people who are in the country undocumented. They would be able to have this status for 6 years, and they could renew it after 6 years. But they could also just apply for a regular green card after 5 years as long as they meet certain requirements. This would incorporate the DREAM Act, which would enable people who came to the U.S. before they turned 18 to apply for this status, as long as they're enrolled in school or discharged from the Army. Pretty much the same requirements that you need to meet for DACA. If you already have DACA, it would create a streamlined process for you to get your green card through that program. It would enable agricultural workers to adjust their status and get a green card. So this is a really amazing bill if it passes, but again, I think that it's going to take a while. So yeah. All right, so we don't have any other questions. So from time to time, as I learn more about the bill, I'll definitely hop on lives or do videos on them to tell you guys more. It's just this week I've been getting like literally emails and text messages every day from people who are like sending me articles about this bill and asking me questions about this bill. So I just wanted to make sure that I hopped on to first remind you that this is just a bill. It's kind of like if you ever watched like Schoolhouse Rock back in the day, which I'm probably dating myself now, but they have like a thing that's like, I am a bill, I am only a bill. This is pretty much this. This is just a bill. This is not a law yet. Do not go giving anybody money who is telling you that they can get you anything from this. This is not a law yet. It is only a bill. So please do not, pay anyone, even lawyers. If you see a lawyer, if you see like a shady lawyer that's like, hey, start paying me money so that when this drops, I can start working on your case, don't do it. Like, run. This is not a law yet. If you're not in the United States, please don't try to, go on like a dangerous voyage to try to come to the US to benefit from this, because again, if it passes as is, you would have had to have been here by January 1st, 2021, so you wouldn't be able to benefit from this anyway. And again, continue to follow me both on Facebook and Instagram. I'm constantly posting content about what's going on in immigration. So if anything changes, I'll definitely let you know. Other immigration lawyers as well. We are all tracking this. We are all waiting with bated breath because we really do want to help you. There are 11 million people here in this country that need legal status. We're definitely here to help you. We want to help you. Once we can, if this bill passes or anything around this bill passes, we'll definitely let you know. But you can follow me I'm Brazen Lawyer on all social media. I live on Instagram, and then secondly, like TikTok and Facebook, but definitely keep in touch. If you would like to discuss a case with me, you can either click the links in my bios, or you can go to brazenlegal.com/contact, or you can call my office directly at 508-942-7497. Let's see. And again, I can help you with cases no matter where you are, as long as you have an American immigration case. Sometimes I get questions, can I help you get a visa in Canada? No. Can I help you go to Mexico? I can't. I can only help you if you have an American immigration case, which means you have a connection to the US, which again, it means that you're a US citizen in the US and you want to petition for a family member, and the only family members you can petition for are, if you're a citizen, you can petition for your parent, your children, your siblings, and your spouse, and your fiance. If you want to get your fiance a visa, if you're a citizen, you can do that. But if you're a citizen, you can only get a green card for your um, spouse, parent, um, uh, brother or sibling, and like children, regardless of if they're married. If you have a green card, you can only petition for your spouse and your unmarried children. That's it. Doesn't matter how old they are, but they cannot be married if you only have a green card. I get that question a lot as well. So just wanted to make sure that was the case. And again, if you guys have any other questions, definitely drop them in the comments of these videos. And as I go throughout the day, if I see anything that I can answer really quickly, I will. But in the meantime, in between time, thank you guys so much for joining me on this cold and snowy Friday in Massachusetts. And I will talk to you guys next time.